Hi there, I'm Dave Householder, and I'm blessed to be your Bible teacher. I'm coming to you from the wilderness, from the desert. In Hebrew, Midbar is the desert. Midbar is in the desert. And that is also one of the terms that the Hebrew speaking people use for Israel's time in the wilderness when they were wandering for 40 years. And I'm going to look today at Psalm 85. Now, Psalm 85 was written by the sons of Korah, Korah. You can look that up and you might say, who are the sons of Korah? Well, the sons of Korah were easily the equals of David when it came to writing Psalms. They wrote some fantastic Psalms, including arguably the second most beautiful Psalm in the Bible, Psalm 42. When, as a deer pants for the water, so my soul longs for you, Lord. It is real interesting about the sons of Korah because their name was a curse which they overcame. What do I mean by that? Korah, if you look at the story of the Exodus, Bamidbar in the wilderness, Korah was part of a rebellion, one of the leaders of a rebellion against Moses. And Moses did something incredibly brave. Moses said, all right, you folks leading the rebellion saying that I'm not hearing from God and I'm just making all this stuff up, which is what you're saying. I want you to all stand over here away from the rest of the community. If they die a natural death, then God has not spoken to me. And at that moment, he stopped talking, and the earth opened up and swallowed those who were in the rebellion, including Korah. So the last thing you want to have is the name Korah being one of the sons of Korah when you are writing Psalms, because that's like traitor, that's like Judas, that's like, yeah, fill in the blank, the people who are on the wrong side of the war. My wife is Dutch, and during the war, the Germans took over Holland, World War II, and those who collaborated with the Germans, thinking the Germans were going to win the war, after the war were very much discriminated against. It was a curse to be known as working with the Germans as a collaborator. And the phrase for them is Fout and Orloch. They were on the wrong side during the war. Now, the sons of Korah had to live with that heritage, the descendants of heritage, and hundreds of years later, they became some of the main musicians with the temple and the whole temple worship thing. The sons of Korah wrote beautiful stuff, and they overcame it through producing beauty, by making art, by doing good things, not just by saying we should be forgiven because it's not our fault. Instead, they did great things and added value. And that's really the goal of human life, is to add value. That's the nature of work, to take something, make it better, and add value to it. We get paid for adding value. That's how the economy works. And they wrote this beautiful Psalm 85 because Israel was sort of in trouble and in between a lot of issues. They would be unfaithful to God and they would suffer for that. Not so much that God would punish them, but they would not be upright. The word upright shows up in Psalm 85 a lot. And upright, tzaddik, means to be a person of integrity, a person who tells the truth, a person who lives with virtue, a person who lives with compassion, a person who tells the truth and is honest, a person who acts and speaks with virtue and honor. And when we do that as a culture, we don't need a lot of police. We don't need a lot of military. We don't need a lot of rules because people are operating out of virtue. And when a society loses that and people just do whatever, the society crumbles and other people take over. This happens over and over in Israel's history. And in Psalm 85, they're sort of between those two worlds and at a crossroads. So basically, they were calling Israel back to a life of tzaddik, uprightness. And when things are really hard in our country, like they are now, we can blame people, we can complain, we can point the finger at other people, or we can call ourselves and the rest of the country back to a life of uprightness, including ourselves, and create beauty, create art, add value. That's what the Sons of Korah, they didn't get rid of their name. They didn't pretend that wasn't their background, but they created beauty despite what they'd been through. If there's anything in your background, your own life, or a family curse that's come down over the generations, or perhaps your nationality or whatever, you can overcome it through creating value, creating beauty, calling yourself and others to a life of uprightness. And if our whole country did that right now, we'd be in a great place. That's the good news for today. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.